So today I'll be joined by a special guest. I think you guys all know Alex G, who's not officially a contributor anymore, but he still hangs around and gets involved, which we thank him for. And then we'll have somebody on the dev team probably join us, probably Toki or somebody else a little bit later on for updates on the vaults. But I'll go ahead and knock out a couple community things real quick. The first thing I wanted to talk about was just like the government's team nominee snapshot that we're going to do. We finalized the 5 nominees that we're going to have, and we're going to post the snapshot for it next week or early in the week next week. The 5 nominees are going to be Kitsune, Jules or Julian, Stratumarius, Z-Bobs, and then the man himself, Alex G. And then just the last thing I wanted to talk about was the Arbitrum airdrop, since I know a lot of people have been asking questions about it. We haven't gotten any more information other than it's going to be sent to us soon. No DAO has got it yet, to be exact. So we're not the only ones, but Zapper has added the bundle or the new multi-sig to the bundle that they track for us. So it'll instantly reflect on the treasury value once we have it on the balance sheet. And yeah, go ahead and kick it off to Alex for the legal stuff. I'm sure a lot of people want to hear some updates on that.
Hey, everybody. Nice to speak with you, and apologies for the background noise on my end. Unfortunately, I'm sure I can't give the amount of updates that people would probably want, but obviously, litigation is ongoing. I think that we posted some links to the court case that Umami Labs filed against myself and some other people who are currently contributors on the multi-sig. So, those are public documents that are available for people to download. There'll be more filings, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. And I posted, in the legal chat channel, the update with the temporary restraining order being denied. So that was obviously something that we were glad to see. There was not like a high likelihood that was going to be successful, but I think it represents, that there's not going to be interference with the sort of operations of the multi-sig wallet. The court has to decide on whether to grant a preliminary injunction on the same basis. I think on April 7th. Well, that's a Saturday. No, April 7th is a Friday. Is next Friday. So that decision will be entered by the court next Friday. It's a very, very slow court. Most courts are slow, but the New York Supreme Court is sort of notoriously slow. So this lawsuit, and nobody wants to hear this, but this is just the reality. This lawsuit's going to go on for years, not months. And what Umami Labs filed, the request for temporary restraining order, is an emergency measure. It's how you get the court to sort of act quickly. Courts are generally not inclined to grant them. So that kind of explains why Umami Labs did it and why everything happened quickly. But nothing else in civil litigation happens quickly. So there's going to be some motions that are going to be filed probably later this month or next month, in April. Those motions are going to be briefed. They're going to sit on the court's docket for months on end. There'll be a hearing. They'll continue to sit on the court's docket for months on end. Don't wait with bated breath for anything to happen in the litigation. It's not going to happen quickly. The most important thing is that it's being handled on behalf of the contributors. The attorneys, I should say, representing the contributors right now are is a law firm called Brown Rudnick, an attorney named Stephen Paley, and Jessica Myers. I think that I mean I have a tough time overstating like the quality and caliber of these attorneys that are representing the contributors. If I had to point to one guy who's like the best litigator in crypto right now, it would be Stephen Paley. And I've only recently gotten to know Jessica Myers, but I guess she represented Johnny Depp, like in the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, so she's like pretty high profile. Her performance in the hearing was impressive. You know, so they're in good hands. It's you know, I think the most important takeaway is that Umami as the DAO, right? The DAO business can kind of, I'm not going to say go on as normal because none of what's happening is like normal, but can continue. And I think unless something really goes off the rails with the preliminary injunction, will be more or less, you know, unimpeded by the litigation. As you know, as Grumpy indicated, I put my name forward. You know, for the sort of governance role with Umami, which I view as largely ministerial. You know, it's certain, and I want to be clear that it's not a. I will not be acting in any capacity as an attorney or the DAO for any contributors, members, et cetera, of the DAO. It's, you know, that my role was with Umami Labs. That role obviously ended. I wish I could say more about it, but obviously I'm disappointed with how things went with Umami Labs, and you know, I mean, I guess that's really all I can say is that I'm disappointed with how things went. I'm disappointed, obviously, with how things ended with Umami Labs, and I you know, I really value everybody in the Umami community, and especially, you know, the core contributors. They've really been put through a lot of bullshit the last 2 months, and none of them deserve it. So like that's kind of what I have to say, you know, on that front. I would suggest, again, not as an attorney for Umami Labs, but or for anybody involved at this point, but as an attorney, you know, observing developments in DeFi and you know, the legal landscape, which is obviously not fantastic, that you know, that the contributors in the community think about putting some protections in place, not having to do with the litigation that's ongoing right now, but just generally sort of thinking about like how to approach, you know, the multi-sig and community governance, and you know, I tremendously appreciative of everything that Kits has done in terms of like putting together I like real robust DAO governance. You know, and I think that similar things should be done with respect to the multi-sig itself, just sort of thinking about limiting the liability of people involved. Again, not having to do with the instant litigation, but just like generally DAOs are complicated, and the legal landscape is getting worse and not better, especially in the United States. And so it's just worth thinking about those things, worth you know, Lex Punk. I'll always put out a plug for Lex Punk. They have some great resources sort of off the shelf that are available, you know, for that type of thing. So that's not like urgent, but just something that I think people should think about. And then, the other thing is just obviously there's a lot of like negativity around this litigation. Justifiably, it's unpleasant, it's unnecessary. It, in a lot of ways, I think represents the worst aspects of DeFi and almost like the worst aspects of humanity, like just people being greedy and shitty. And it's unpleasant, and I just really appreciate that the community sort of rallied to move past that, kind of keeping the chatter about it in the legal chat channel, because I think that it was a real shame that the way that this whole thing played out in the media, I think that it doesn't reflect what Umami is as a DAO and a community, how it was portrayed in the media. And I'm glad that internally, at least, we're not like the lawsuit DAO. We can kind of segment that to this sort of one little corner. I know that people want updates on it because it impacts, you all own tokens, and it impacts, the value of the tokens and everything. And obviously, it's impacted the delivery of the vaults and all that. So people want to talk about it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just really appreciate everybody in the community not making it the only focus and kind of keeping it to the appropriate venue. And again, I apologize that I and everybody else have to be a little bit, tight-lipped about what exactly is going on. That's the nature of litigation. And again, litigation takes forever, so don't expect it to change anytime in the immediate future. But myself and everybody else will continue to answer the questions that we can. So that's what I got.
Thanks, Alex. And I just wanted to add, this is great, Pixel. I'm one of the signers, and I'm actually one of the people named on the lawsuit. But I just want to make clear that whilst it's not an enjoyable process to go through, it's by no means like what we think about all day, every day. In fact, quite the opposite. And I'm fairly confident now that like the bulk of the issue here, the bulk of the work, I guess, is past us. So Alex speaks about the fact that this lawsuit could potentially go on for years, not months, not weeks, and that is true, but it'll just be something that's ticking along in the background for the most part. And my understanding of that is really that a lot of it is just waiting for the next stage. And the New York Supreme Court is the place that everything goes. Like, this isn't anything special. It's where everything's going. So there's just a big queue, basically, and we're in a queue. And you can hear I'm British, and that's what we do best is queuing. So we're pretty happy now that that's all kind of in process. It's fine. It's ticking along in the background. I'm happy to the peppy British that Grumpy's put in the chat there. I'm happy to give a little update. I know that it's very, very early for our main our Solidity devs. Toki is in a very early time zone right now, so I don't think he's on the call yet. I'm kind of winging it now then, and you have a front ender giving a Solidity update. But I think that's probably the main thing that people are here to listen to. So I think there are a few, one important point actually on the subject of Solidity is that the Solidity contributors are pretty much completely unaffected by this case. They're not directly affected. None of them are named on it. So that's really good for us, because that's by far and away the largest part of the work is for the V2 vaults. And my understanding is that they've recently been working on a couple of main areas. So one is the peripheral contracts, and that includes the slow release vaults, which are the vaults that we've talked about before, where you kind of forfeit the liquidity a little bit. You basically lock up your tokens, you lock up your collateral for initially, I think it's going to be 30 days. And then as a result, you get an increased APR boost and some UX kind of improvements that are associated with those vaults as well. So instead of having to do like 3 transactions to get into them, they're going to have zaps basically that will get us straight in there. Of course, all of these contracts need to be audited, but we already have a large portion of the code base audited. We have the audit results back, and I believe the fixes and the changes as a result of these audits have already been implemented. So we then have like basically a second round of audits for just the extra stuff that we've added to. So it's not going to be like the whole thing needs to be looked at from scratch. It'll be a quicker process because Zokio are already familiar with the code base. So they'll be looking at those things. And then the other thing is correlation hedging. So as you guys are probably aware, GMX has open interest limits. And for Link and Uni in particular, the limits for the open interest can be very, very low. And we still need to, in an ideal world, we still need to hedge the exposure that we have to those assets. So looking at different ways that we can do that. Correlation hedging is one of them. And we're also looking at different venues for the hedging. So if, for example, open interest on GMX is at a max for any of the assets that we need to hedge, then we'll be looking at other places that we can hedge. And the devs have built a really, really nice modular system that means that we can easily plug in different hedging providers. And even if something pops up in the future, like if there's a huge amount of liquidity on something like Dolomite or something else in future, then we can add adapters to that. So the result is going to be an incredibly durable set of vaults that will not need to be like redeployed. We won't need to have any mass migrations or anything like that because we'll be able to handle this. And then finally, I think just to mention, I've seen a little bit of chat in the Discord about OI and hedging OI, and I know that Rage Trade have recently released a vault that has OI hedging, and they've even talked about like partial OI hedging, like hedging against Kang. And I want to just highlight that all of these things are possible with Umami's vaults. In fact, I believe that open interest hedging is actually just a parameter that we can change, so we can hedge either 100% or 50% against OI. And we need to obviously look and see how that changes. Obviously, we have a vast array of backtesting data to be able to look at. And to date, hedging OI may not have been the best option in terms of maximizing returns. But obviously, like, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So there's some areas to look at there too. Briefly on the front end, I think the important thing for me to say is that the front end is not going to be the cause for any delays. So we have a front end that we can use for these vaults. It should be easy to use and fun, and enjoyable to use. So it's all coming along really well. We have obviously got a focus on analytics and adding analytics, and I think that maybe Clones can give a little update on analytics as well. But yeah, I mean, the main message is that everything's on track, doing well, and that it's not too impacted by the legal situation. And even my side, the front end, is not going to be causing any delays as a result of this legal stuff.
Yep, indeed. Hello everyone. I want to briefly talk about like the analytics that we have been building alongside like the vaults in the past month and a half. Like even though like the vault are released internally and like being updated pretty frequently, sometimes to like fix stuff and stuff like that. We've been able to build like an analytics stack for the vault, like pretty much since the beginning. So that allows us to get like the exact state that the vaults are looking at. So for example, we want to know exactly the GMX prices that the vault are using to make the calculations that the keeper are using as well. So we are registering all of that data, basically almost like a second set of GMX data that we are using only for ourselves, registering only what we want. So for example, we're speaking about OI and stuff like that. Like we are registering the trader open PNL, like on the short and long side for every of the assets, for all of the assets. We are registering that like every minute, for example. So we have like a really precise set of data that we can use. That allows us, and mostly like the smart contract guys, to like look at the vault performances, like the PPS, what are the amount of ETH harvested by vaults, amount redistributed, compounded, and stuff like that. It allows us to check at every point in time, basically, or every important moment during a rebalance or prior to a rebalance. It allows us to check if the vaults are acting as intended, basically. Making sure that they rebalance when they should, that they are looking at the right prices, that there is no error, no reverting transactions, that everything is working flawlessly, basically. So we leverage the graph for that. Like most of you guys probably have already known about the graph. It allows us to, it's a layer that allows us to filter out data from the chain, so we can only look at the data that we are interested in. So we are like, the graph is being plugged to register all the data, and I'm building an API on the side that the front end is gonna use to display your performance and Vault's performances. So we're gonna have a lot of data to feed to the front end. Like Vault price per share, Vault values. You're gonna have your positions displayed, like the portfolio page on the website is gonna be live pretty much when Vaults go live. It's gonna allow you to track every Vault position, its performances, for how long you've been there, how much. Let's say you enter the GLP ETH Vault, you're gonna see how much ETH you earned, how much dollar value you earned. You're going to be able to see everything. Oh, and that will also work for stacking metric. So that's something that's not currently like live, but we already have the portfolio page ready for stacking metrics. So how much ETH did you earn? How much Umami did you earn via compounding, with nice graphs and everything like that. So we're pretty excited to like release everything, because like we kept building no matter what, like the past 2 months. So there's a lot to show, and we're pretty excited to show it.